You spend money every week on supplements, sleep aids, and antacids. Most of them sit in your cabinet half-used. Meanwhile, plants that have been solving the same problems for centuries are growing in window boxes and kitchen gardens, and most people walk right past them. Every plant on this list has been used by real communities, for real reasons, across centuries of documented practice. Not medical advice, historical and ethnobotanical context, not a replacement for professional care. Subscribe if you want more honest, practical guides to growing and using plants that actually do something. Let's start with the most familiar one, and the one most people are using wrong. Number 1. Chamomile tea, the nervous system reset. Chamomile has been used as a calming remedy across European, Middle Eastern, and North African traditions for over 1,000 years. It was one of the most common plants in a traditional kitchen garden, not for decoration, but because it worked often enough that people kept growing it generation after generation. German chamomile grows as an annual, reaching about 2 feet tall, with small daisy-like flowers. It self-seeds freely in well-drained soil and full sun, meaning once you establish a patch, it tends to reappear without replanting. Harvest the flowers when fully open. That is when the aromatic compounds peak. Here is the one critical detail. Most store-bought chamomile tea is made from flowers dried too long ago or stored poorly, which is why it often tastes flat. Fresh dried chamomile, flowers dried quickly at low heat, stored in an airtight container away from light, is noticeably different in both aroma and effect. If you have ever dismissed chamomile as ineffective, stale tea is likely the reason. The flavor is soft, slightly apple-like, and pleasant without sweetener. Traditionally used before sleep for digestive discomfort and general nervous tension. The downside, chamomile belongs to the same family as ragweed. People with ragweed allergies sometimes react to it. Start with a small amount if you have seasonal allergies. Next, a plant that most people grow for cooking, and almost nobody thinks to brew as a tea, even though traditional healers considered it more valuable as a drink than as a herb. Number 2. Mint tea, the digestive reset. In Moroccan culture, fresh mint tea is not a health drink. It is a daily ritual, a social gesture, and a digestive habit all at once. The practice survived not because of tradition for its own sake, but because it worked consistently enough to become embedded in daily life. Peppermint contains menthol, which has a relaxing effect on the smooth muscle of the gastrointestinal tract. That is the mechanism behind mint tea's reputation for easing bloating, gas, and post-meal discomfort. Grow mint in a buried pot or dedicated container. Beyond containment, it asks for almost nothing. Here is the one critical detail. Brew mint tea with water just below boiling, around 85 to 90 degrees Celsius. Boiling water destroys the volatile aromatic compounds that give mint its effect. That one adjustment produces a noticeably better cup. The flavor is clean, cooling, and bright. Fresh leaves make a better cup than dried, a small handful per serving, steeped 3 to 5 minutes. The downside, mint tea can worsen acid reflux in some people. The same muscle-relaxing mechanism that helps digestion can allow stomach acid to move upward. Pay attention if you have reflux issues. Next, a root that looks unremarkable in a grocery bag, but produces a tea with more warming intensity than almost anything else on this list. Number 3. Ginger tea, the circulation fire starter. Ginger was one of the most traded spices in history. Not for flavor, but because it was genuinely useful for nausea, cold symptoms, and poor circulation. Fresh ginger simmered as a tea produces warmth that is physically noticeable within minutes. To make it correctly, slice 5 to 7 pieces of fresh root and simmer in water for 10 to 15 minutes. Simmering, not steeping, extracts significantly more of the active compounds. Add honey and lemon after removing from heat. Here is the one critical detail. Dried ginger powder produces a different chemical profile than fresh root. For the warming, circulatory effect ginger is best known for, fresh root simmered in water is the preparation. A dried ginger tea bag is a different product with different effects. The flavor is sharp, spicy, and unmistakably warming. Start with fewer slices if you are new to it. The downside: ginger may mildly thin the blood. If you are on blood-thinning medication, consult your doctor before drinking it regularly. Not medical advice. A practical flag worth knowing. Next, an herb with one of the longest records of use as both a kitchen staple and a medicinal plant, and one of the strongest flavor profiles on this list. Number 4. Sage tea, the throat and mind tonic. The Latin name of the sage genus, Salvia, comes from the word for healing. Sage was documented by Greek, Roman, and Arabic physicians for throat complaints, memory support, and fever management. Sage is drought-tolerant and perennial in most temperate climates. It asks for full sun and well-drained soil. Harvest leaves before flowering for the strongest flavor. Here is the one critical detail. Sage contains thujone, a compound that in very large amounts over extended periods can be problematic. A cup or two occasionally is well within what traditional practice considered safe. This is a situational tea, not a daily high-volume habit. The flavor is bold, herbal, and slightly medicinal. Add honey to balance the bitterness. The downside: pregnant women are traditionally advised to avoid sage tea in medicinal quantities. Worth noting clearly, even in an ethnobotanical context. Next, a tree blossom tea that has been the go-to European folk remedy for stress and sleeplessness for centuries. Number 5. Linden tea, the gentle sedative. In Germany, France, and throughout the Balkans, linden tea is a household staple. What you made when someone couldn't sleep or calm down. The flowers appear briefly in early summer and must be dried quickly. Here is the one critical detail. Linden flowers must be harvested at exactly the right moment. Fully open but not yet browning at the edges. Too early and they lack potency. Too late and the volatile oils are already gone. The harvest window is often just 1 to 2 weeks. Watch the tree carefully and pick within the first few days of full bloom. The flavor is delicate, floral, and faintly sweet. One of the most pleasant on this list to drink plain. The downside: linden trees are large and slow-growing. Most people source dried flowers from an herb supplier rather than waiting years for their own tree to produce a meaningful harvest. Next, a seed-based tea that has been used digestively for far longer than it has been used in the kitchen. Number 6. Fennel tea, the bloating eliminator. Fennel seeds were placed at the end of meals in Mediterranean and South Asian traditions, not for flavor, but for function. Crush a teaspoon lightly and steep in hot water for 7 to 10 minutes. The crushing step matters. Whole seeds release far less of their aromatic compounds than cracked ones. This is the step most people skip, which is why most people's fennel tea tastes weak. Here is the one critical detail. Fennel belongs to the same plant family as several toxic wild lookalikes, including poison hemlock. If you are foraging fresh fennel rather than using purchased seeds, correct identification is essential. Purchased seeds from any grocery store carry no such risk. This warning applies only to foraging. The flavor is anise-like, slightly sweet, and warming, traditionally used for bloating, gas, and digestive sluggishness after meals. The downside: fennel has mild estrogen-mimicking properties documented in high doses. Occasional tea is well within normal use. Regular high-volume consumption is not recommended for people with hormone-sensitive conditions. Next, a small red fruit that produces one of the highest vitamin C concentrations of any plant in the temperate world. Number 7. Rosehip tea, the vitamin C powerhouse. During World War II, when citrus imports to Britain were cut off, the government organized a national rosehip collection program to replace vitamin C. This was not a wellness trend. It was wartime nutrition based on documented need. Rosehip tea is made from dried rosehips, simmered for 15 to 20 minutes. The tough skin requires heat and time to release properly. Here is the one critical detail. Vitamin C is destroyed by prolonged high heat. Simmer gently rather than at a rolling boil, and drink the tea fresh rather than reheating it multiple times. Those two habits protect the very compound you are brewing for. The flavor is tart, fruity, and slightly floral. Blended with hibiscus, it becomes one of the most refreshing cold-brewed teas you can make from a home garden. The downside, rosehip seeds are covered in fine hairs that can irritate if they make it into the cup. Always strain thoroughly through a fine mesh before drinking. Next, a lemon-scented herb so gentle traditional herbalists gave it to children, and so consistent for anxiety that it has been studied in modern clinical settings. Number 8. Lemon balm tea, the anxiety quieter. Medieval monastery gardens grew lemon balm specifically as a remedy for nervous tension and sleep disturbance. It was considered safe enough for daily use and gentle enough for children, an unusual combination in traditional herbal practice, where most effective plants came with significant cautions. It grows easily in most temperate climates, preferring moist soil and partial shade, and spreads vigorously. Containment is advisable. Here is the one critical detail. Lemon balm's aromatic compounds are highly volatile and degrade faster than almost any other herb on this list. Dried lemon balm goes stale quickly. For best results, use fresh leaves steeped in hot, not boiling, water and drink immediately. If using dried, buy in small quantities and replace frequently. The flavor is gentle, lemon-forward, and approachable. One of the easiest teas on this list for people who don't normally drink herbal tea. The downside, lemon balm may interact with thyroid medication in high doses over time. If you are managing a thyroid condition, mention this to your doctor before making it a daily habit. Next, a spice so familiar it sits in almost every kitchen, but brewed as a tea, it works in ways most people have never thought to use it for. Number 9. Clove tea, the pain and cold fighter. Cloves were valuable enough to drive major trade routes, and at various points in history to be worth more than gold by weight. That value was not decorative. It came from consistent, documented usefulness for pain, dental discomfort, and respiratory complaints. Clove tea is made by simmering 3 to 5 whole cloves per cup for 10 to 15 minutes. The compound responsible for its numbing effect, eugenol, is the same compound used in some dental preparations today. Here is the one critical detail. Clove tea is strong. More than 4 or 5 cloves per cup produces a tea that is overwhelming in flavor, and in very high regular doses, potentially irritating to the digestive lining. Reach for this tea situationally, at the onset of a cold, during dental discomfort in winter, not as a daily high-volume habit. The flavor is bold, sweet-spicy, and intensely warming. Combined with ginger and cinnamon, it becomes one of the most effective warming blends available from a kitchen spice shelf. The downside, eugenol can slow blood clotting in high doses. If you are on blood thinners, consult your doctor before drinking clove tea regularly. Last on the list, a spice with more marketing claims attached to it than almost any other plant, and one where the traditional use is both simpler and more honest than the commercial version. Number 10. Cinnamon tea, the blood sugar steadier. Cinnamon has been used in Ayurvedic and Chinese herbal practice for centuries, primarily for warmth, digestion, and metabolic regulation. The modern interest in cinnamon for blood sugar support has traditional roots that predate the supplement aisle by a long stretch. Cinnamon tea is made by simmering 1 or 2 sticks in water for 15 to 20 minutes. Sticks give a cleaner, more aromatic cup than powder. Here is the one critical detail. There are 2 main types sold commercially. Ceylon cinnamon, true cinnamon, contains lower levels of coumarin, a compound that in high doses over time can affect the liver. Cassia cinnamon, the common supermarket variety, contains significantly more coumarin. For occasional tea, the difference is minimal. For daily consumption, Ceylon is the version traditional herbalists worked with. The flavor is sweet, warming, and familiar. One of the most comforting teas on this list. Pairs naturally with clove and ginger for a winter blend that covers more ground than any single herb alone. The downside, cinnamon can interact with diabetes medication by influencing blood sugar. If you are managing diabetes with medication, discuss this with your doctor before drinking it daily. Not medical advice, a real interaction worth flagging. 10 plants, 10 teas, all of them with track records that predate the supplement industry by centuries. None of this replaces professional medical care, but understanding what these plants are, how to grow them, and how to use them properly is knowledge that used to be common, and somewhere along the way got replaced by a shelf of plastic bottles. You don't need a bigger garden to have a functional herb garden. You need the right 10 plants and the knowledge to actually use what you grow. Subscribe for more practical, honest growing guides, the kind that treat plants as tools, not trends.